Okay, Sean says it's working now.
Yes, that's good. That's good. I'm gonna put the Zoom as well. So that's
Makes me laugh.
How you doing?
Good, you?
You're live.
good sound.
Mhm. Okay.
I didn't agree with that, and I just, we weren't happy.
We might be live.
We are live.
We are live.
We are live. Okay. 6 o'clock. So is everybody here that is going to be here for the training? Is there anybody else we're waiting for? Okay, I'll take the silence as a, we're all here. I am.
Everybody thinks it should be.
All right, well, we'll go ahead. Tonight is just training for the current sitting council and the incoming council. Steve Singer will be here at 7:30. He didn't feel he needed to have any more training tonight. So Amy, I guess you're up, so we'll listen to you.
Well, first, thank you for being here tonight. I know it's a little bit of a chilly night. Hopefully tonight we don't overwhelm you with information. I know it's quite detailed and there's a lot to review. And so during my presentation, if you have a question or a concern that you want addressed, just please ask it. You don't have to wait till the end. What I would like to start with is the WHAM video, just to kind of give you the foundation for Wyoming government. That's me. It's 6 minutes, so hopefully we can keep you entertained for 6 minutes. Popcorn.
No.
I don't know sign language.
Why don't we have sound?
Lip reading.
Is the headphone jack's unplugged, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Lower that. Yeah. And then, right here, right click, move the playback device. There we go. Sit.
Direct request of, or by the consent of, the citizens residing in them.
Okay. We will
Counties, on
restart.
the other hand, are created by the sovereign power of the state without the participation. Amy Bach, City Attorney for the City of Romulus. Let's discuss the legal framework for local government. We'll cover types of government and forms of government, the general powers and duties of local government officials, and home rule. The legal framework for Wyoming municipal corporations is set forth in Article 13 of the Wyoming Constitution, providing for the incorporation of municipalities and the way city and town boundaries may be altered through annexation. Title 15 of the Wyoming State Statutes, entitled Cities and Towns, details the general powers of cities and towns and explains how to hold council meetings, how to enter into contracts, and how to plan for growth of your community. Municipal corporations come into existence either at the direct request of
It's a number of pages. It's a number of pages. So what staff did was they reviewed that, and they just kind of grabbed the pieces that pertain directly to the municipality. And so this, what's in front of you, is not as detailed, but it's specific to the city of Rollins. So we've eliminated the commission form of government, the mayor form of government. It's strictly limited to the city manager form of government, detailing what the role is of the mayor, what the role is of the city manager. Review that, and they kind of.
Oh, I have an idea.
That hand controls on the website.
It is, and it's very, very helpful. If you have any questions,
Could we get a copy?
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Like some chance, I mean, have one printed for us or?
Yeah, absolutely.
The full handbook.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I've been reading it online, you know, but just to have something highlighted is a lot better.
Well, and sometimes it's a lot easier to have it right in front of you, and then you can take notes and kind of create your own little book. So that's definitely something that we can do. Okay, so. So the legal jargon for you is that this was created, however, don't strictly rely on this. If you have a question regarding the Constitution, we need to refer to the Constitution. If it's a question regarding state statute, we of course need to review the state statute. If it's a question regarding Rollins ordinance, then we're going to go to Rollins ordinance. This is just meant as a quick review for you to provide you some basics, but it's not going to be as detailed that you need to answer specific questions. So chapter 1 indicates and provides for the overall working of the general powers and responsibilities of the government. In this case, the city of Rollins is a first-class city. First-class cities are designated by a population of 4,000 or more. First-class cities typically have a mayor proclamation that's sent in, as well as charter ordinances. The city of Rollins has both. What may be important to you is the powers, the general powers and duties of the city of Rollins are defined in 15.1.103. It's very detailed in that it's roughly 4 or 5 pages. But unfortunately, it's not the end all. There are additional, it identifies that the city can sue and be sued, purchase and hold real and personal property, including real estate taxes sold for taxes, sell and convey and lease any estate owned, perform any acts in relation to the property concerns. So what's important for you to understand is the general powers, you have to find that you have the authority to do what you're doing in those general powers. Secondly, you look to case law to determine whether or not an issue has been raised to a court, questioning whether or not a municipality has the authority to perform an act or not. The city of Rollins has been very litigious, and we have a number of cases involving the city of Rollins going back to the 1970s, particularly involving Public Meetings Act and delegation of authority. And we can provide those cases to you if you need those. So the city of Rollins operates under a city manager form of government. The governing body, which is the council, is made up of 7 individuals, 2 from each ward and 1 at-large position. So you have 7 voting members. In this structure, the mayor does have a vote. And in order for the city to transact any business, it has to be a quorum of the governing body. So at any time, you need 4 members of the board present. If there's not 4 members of the board, you convene the meeting and you identify that you cannot hold the meeting due to a lack of quorum and no official actions taken at that meeting. It's a meeting, but it's not official. Additionally, the city manager is the CEO of the city of Rollins. Essentially, all the day-to-day operations of the administration is run by the city manager. and he does all the hiring and firing with the exception of the city manager, the city attorney, and the city judge. Those are all three direct employees of the city council, and that's per Wyoming state statute. The council has broad policy and visionary authority over the city of Rollins. They set the broad policy aspects of the city, the goals, the policies. And then it's up to the city manager to enforce those policies and goals and to implement them day to day, working with staff and then answering questions from citizens and working with government entities. Now, the council, in addition to setting those policies, they have legislative authority. They create their own ordinances. So Rollins Municipal Code, and this is it currently, are all the ordinances adopted by the governing body. Now, an ordinance is very much like a state statute. It's a law of the city of Rollins. It's a local law. It requires 3 readings, and the 3 readings also require a public hearing in those 3 readings. Now, it's not statutorily required where that public hearing is comprised. We typically do it on a 2nd reading in order to try and get the most input from the citizens. Typically, a 1st reading, people are just beginning to hear about the issue and they may not be ready or prepared to come and state a position, but hopefully by the 2nd hearing or the 2nd reading, that they're able to formulate an opinion and they're ready to either be speaking on behalf or against the ordinance in question. The ordinance is typically not effective until it's published, so you have 3 readings, and then it's effective on publication, unless the ordinance itself specifically sets forth when it will be effective. And that has to be at the time of the 3rd reading, the final adoption. After you have the ordinances in place, other situations that can come before the council is a resolution. A resolution is generally just a policy statement of the council. It's a little bit more formal than just a motion. A resolution is in resolution form. It does not require 3 readings, and it can be revoked at any time. So those matters can come before you. Typically, what's presented to you through the city council would be just that, would be new business, business of the city staff, and old business, public hearings, and the like. We'll go into the makeup of the agenda a little bit later. It follows typical Robert's Rules of Order, and it's subject to the chair revising those agendas as the Robert's Rules of Order get amended or as they see fit. If something doesn't work, the chairman can change those. Okay, turning to the mayor. The mayor in this position has certain duties and authorities. He's the leader of the governing body. He presides over all meetings of the governing body. He executes contracts on behalf of the city. He recommends policies to the governing body, as well as the governing body to the mayor. He recommends board commissions and appointments subject to the approval of the city council. He appoints the city manager, city attorney, and municipal judge with the consent and approval of the governing body. So the mayor has 1 vote in addition. It requires a majority vote. He may call a special council meeting. That's pursuant to both the charter ordinance as well as the Public Meetings Act. He acts as a ceremonial leader for the city, ribbon cuttings. We need a few more of those. Essentially, he leads the governing body in addressing political matters, needs, goals, and vision for the community, and he meets regularly with the city manager and provides that bridge to the council on the day-to-day administrative items that are occurring. The city manager, who is the chief administrative officer, he again hires and fires all positions within the city. His other duties include enforcement of municipal laws and ordinances. So code enforcement, police department, building officials, All of those issues and concerns and enforcement are routed through the city manager. He has ultimate control of how that's being enforced. Now, there's civil service rules that play into the fire and the civil component, so that's, I don't want to stray you on that issue. But essentially, the city manager oversees how the city operates and functions on a day-to-day basis, and the council sets those broad strokes. He prepares and submits reports to the governing body. He keeps the city council fully advised on the city's financial condition and future needs, and all other duties required under that position. Chapter 2 is more detailed involving the city council meetings as a whole. Typically, the most important component of a public meeting is notice. Notice and opportunity for hearing is central in everything that government does. It's fundamental due process. And we absolutely have to keep the public and all interested parties informed of the business that's going to be transacted. So typically, you have a publication in the Rollins Times. The agenda is no longer published, however, the meeting continues to be published. The agenda is released typically the Friday before a meeting. It's published on the website, and it's available on Facebook and through our public relations director. She's done a very good job of trying to create more transparency in that publicity. So typically you have a notice, the public's aware of what's going to be transacted, and the meeting is held on the first and third Tuesday of every month. That's in the charter ordinance as well as found in Rollins Municipal Code. And so that would require an ordinance change by the city council to alter those dates or to change those dates. So typically, the council meeting will begin with the mayor calling the meeting to order, and in his absence, the vice mayor would serve as mayor pro tem. In his absence, if they are both unavailable, it would go to the senior council member to run the meeting following that. So they call, they do a roll call to make sure that they have a quorum. Again, a majority, a simple majority is required. After they have a majority, they begin the meeting, every meeting, with the Pledge of Allegiance. And then they begin with all public hearings. During the public hearing component, that is the time for any individual to come forward to speak either on behalf or object to the agenda item that's coming before the council. There is no limitation on time. The only issue on that is if it becomes unduly burdensome or repetitive, the chairman has the ability to request that the speaker move on or bring in new comments to the council. Following the public hearing is closed, and then they open what's called citizens participation. Citizens participation is limited to 5 minutes, and it is on items not on the agenda. So if you have an issue that's not being heard tonight, but you want to speak to your council about it, you can speak to the council under citizens participation with that 5-minute time limit. We then move into city council reports. Typically, the city manager will give an update or a report every meeting, and the staff has recently been attending, and they give their reports the last meeting of the month. You then have the approval of the minutes from the previous council meeting. So you're going to want to review those minutes, ensure that they accurately depict what occurred and what didn't occur. They're not typically specifically detailed. They're action minutes, but if there's something that you specifically want on the record or need to be reflected in the minutes, the time for you to make that amendment is before the approval of the minutes, and to request that change. If you miss a meeting and you are not present, you do not have to vote because you don't know whether or not the minutes are accurate or not. It then moves into correspondence reports and information. This would be any information that the city council or that the mayor receives from other agencies, other groups, or anything that's going on that's pertinent to the city of Rollins. They then move on to the approval of the agenda, and items can be removed or added with a majority vote. Again, you want to be cautious by adding things because you want to put people on notice that you're going to be talking about something, and if you add it that night, they don't have that notice requirement. So you want to be cautious whenever you add something to the agenda. The council then moves into municipal boards and commission appointments. Typically, the board appointments have changed over the years. I believe currently there is an application on the city website. It's submitted to the city clerk's office and then submitted or provided to the mayor and council. And then the council then hopefully has a number of applicants to choose from, and they select the best candidate to fit that position. It does require a first and a second and a majority vote for boards and commissions. The important thing to note under boards and commissions is there are a great deal of municipal boards which involve property rights, which involve employment and personnel issues. And so I would, please don't take lightly of those board appointments. They're really essential and important and vital to the city of Rollins that you place competent individuals on those boards that can follow the bylaws and perform all the work that's necessary in those on those boards. You then move on to unfinished business. That would be any matters that were a carryover from the last meeting. If you have an ordinance in its second or third reading, it would fall under unfinished business. If you have a matter that's been tabled or postponed to the next meeting, it would fall under new business or unfinished business. What you need to be remember or try and remember is when you postpone something, you can postpone it for the and it typically comes up at the next meeting. If you table it, when it comes up at the next meeting, you have to have a motion to pull it off the table, a second to pull it off the table, a vote, and then you go into the matter. So typically tabling a matter under Robert's Rules of Order was the usual norm for everyone to do, but unfortunately it adds that extra step of a motion and a second and a vote. So sometimes it's easier to just postpone a matter than it is to table a matter. You then move on to new business, and new business can include anything from an agreement to a bid award, resolutions, ordinances, or any other administrative functions such as fee waivers or issues that have been presented to you from a citizen or from staff. Finally, at the conclusion of all new business, the council can either move to adjourn or they can move to go into executive session. Now, under the Public Meetings Act, the general rule is that all matters performed by the governing body will be conducted in the public. That's just the general rule. There are 9 slim exceptions for when you can go into executive session. They're very specific, and they've been changed over time. They were some of them were broad, and now they've become more fine-tuned to limit it. So the intent of the legislature isn't to expand that ability to go into executive session, they're actually narrowing it down and limiting it to say, you really should be speaking on the floor regarding matters of the city. And so we can go through the executive session, 9 sections or exemptions in a minute. What's important to note under executive session is through the case laws is that you note the time, you note the reasons for why you're going into executive session, not the specific subject matter, but the exception, for matters confidential by law, for litigation. And once you have identified why you're going into executive session for those specific matters, it's presumed to be lawful. And so that's why it's important, and that's why the council typically, Councilmember Smith's really good at identifying those reasons for us to go into executive session. When we go into executive session, it's typically the council, the city manager, and the city attorney. Minutes are taken absolutely, of every meeting. It's strictly confidential. What occurs in executive session is not to be discussed outside of executive session. The minutes that are prepared in the following meeting are provided to the council in another executive session. You review them in executive session. You make changes to those in executive session, and then you come out to take official action to adopt those minutes. The minutes are dated and they are kept consistently since February of this year. Those are consistently kept in a lockbox and not available for display. They are subject to a valid court order, but absent a valid court order, they are not to be released and do not get released. We then move on to Robert's Rules of Order, which is the general parliamentary procedure for the city of Rollins and for most government agencies across the country. Typically, for a matter to go for the council to hear a matter to get into discussion, it requires a motion and a second, and then you are permitted to go into discussion. After you have discussion, the council can ask questions of any pertinent questions that they want of staff. If a citizen is here and a citizen has a question or a concern, the council can speak to that, as well as any questions of the governing body. And the governing body typically will engage in some discussion regarding those issues just to get everyone involved in understanding what the current request is.
Hey, Amy,
Yes.
quick question, a little bit irrelevant. Is the order of the meeting, is that based on Robert's rules, or is that just kind of how it's traditionally gone as far as like public hearing, participation, council reports? Is that Robert's rules that kind of put the meeting in a specific order like that, or is
The
that just
general framework
more
is there,
tradition?
but the city of Rollins has revised it over time, creating those correspondence and reports, the city manager.
Like executive session could be the beginning of the meeting if we wanted. Just
Absolutely.
willy-nilly.
If you have an issue that you need legal counsel before you get to that new business. If you have a question regarding enforcement or the wording of an ordinance and you need legal interpretation, or you need assistance on whether or not you have firm ground to adopt what's being proposed, you absolutely should seek legal counsel before you have that presented to you. And that legal counsel, you have a right to receive that legal counsel in confidence. And so that's when you would convene outside. We would go to another room and you would ask those legal questions and receive legal advice or interpretation. And then once you have fully received the information that you need, or all your questions are answered in that legal aspect, you would come back, reconvene, and then begin the meeting, depending. So it's not necessarily, it has to be at the end of the meeting. It can fall anywhere. And a good example would be the swearing in of the new city council members. Typically, the current council stays and begins the meeting, and they transact till they get to new business. Once new business is before the council, you have that change. The new council members come up, they are sworn in by the municipal judge. And typically what occurs after that is the council may or may not, they immediately begin to determine who will be the mayor. Now, councils have done it differently in the past. Some councils have debated out on the floor the mayoral selections out on the floor. And some council members have convened into executive session where it's just the council members, so not the city manager or the attorneys there, and they discuss that issue. So that would be a good example of where an executive session may come in during the middle of the meeting. Voting procedures. When present, all council members are required to vote, and that includes the mayor. If you have a tie vote, that is the same as it failing. So you have to have a majority for the item to pass. Again, council member has the authority to abstain from voting. Abstaining from a vote is pretty typical. If you've missed the prior meeting and you're not sure if the minutes are correct, you can abstain from that meeting. Or if you have a potential conflict of interest or a real declared conflict of interest, you absolutely should refrain from being present during the vote. And depending on the conflict and how personal it is, you probably should be out of the room during the discussion of that item, depending on how big that conflict is. And the statute provides for that under conflicts of interest. So handling of motions, essentially, the mayor is the presiding officer. All meetings run and statements should run through the mayor. Our mayor currently is very easy to work with and very, he welcomes council input and staff input, but it does require his acknowledgement for you to be heard on the floor. Are you all familiar with motions and seconds and majority votes on those issues? So essentially, any member of the governing body can make a motion, and it's as simple as I move to approve. Typically, they are positive motions, so you don't want to make a negative motion on the floor. It doesn't mean you have to vote for it, but the motion should be positive. I move to approve resolution 1515, calling Amy Day. You don't want to have Amy Day. You simply vote it down, you vote against it.
And then it's also like if it's not gonna make a motion, then it's just dead on the floor also, right? No one moves to make a motion.
Yes, if you do not have a first and a second on the floor, then the issue dies for lack of a second. And you move on to the next item. And it can be presented again. There's questions regarding reconsideration at the same meeting. If you're requesting a reconsideration of that same subject matter in the same meeting, it requires the opposing or the losing party to bring the motion back up for consideration. So it's a little different. The opposite has to bring it forward for reconsideration. Otherwise, it would come back before the council at the next meeting, or whoever wants, whenever they want to bring that issue up before the next council meeting. The council typically does not have to worry about motion to set time and place of the next meeting. As I stated, it's in both the Rollins Municipal Code as well as the charter of the city of Rollins that you will meet, the city government will meet the first and third Tuesday of every month, and it would require a change in ordinance to effectuate that. Typically at the end of the meeting, the chairman will move to adjourn the meeting, asking if there's any objections to that adjournment. The chairman can also recess a meeting, particularly like right now, where we're a little tired or we've heard this for a little bit and you want a bathroom break or you need 5 minutes. The chairman has that authority, subject to the council's approval. I have provided the current council with a small book about Robert's Rules of Order. I will provide that to incoming council as well, just to kind of give you that information. The important thing to understand is that if you're unsure or you're not sure how to make a motion, when to make a motion, just reach out. We're all in the same position and we'd all be willing to help with those issues. The important thing is to have your voice heard and not be quiet simply because you're unsure of the procedures. We talked a little bit about the Wyoming Public Meetings Act. Again, the general rule is that it will be done on the public floor. And that includes a quorum of 4 council members. It's a little bit difficult to work around when you're at a WAM convention or you're at a convention or a function where you have maybe 5 or 6 city council members. it doesn't mean you can't have breakfast together at a land convention or lunch or sit in the same training. The key issue is discussion of municipal business. So, if Terry and 5 of the council members are sitting at a coffee table having coffee, discussing COVID-19 or discussing the weather, those types of things are not a meeting. It's not an official action because you're not discussing municipal subject matter. Now, if you then go into, we're going to now start to talk or discuss city buildings and whether or not they should be open to the public or whether they should continue to be closed. Those types of things, absolutely, you should have a notice that you're having a meeting, you're discussing it, and that's why all workshops typically have to be published as well as the meetings. Even though you don't take official action, you should not take official action outside of a meeting. You have typically four or more governing members present discussing city subject matter. And so that would be why you always notice it in a workshop. Or if they're going to go tour a facility and there'll be 4 or 5 of them, typically you absolutely should have that published as a public meeting. Public meetings are required under state statute. They have to be published in the Daily Times as long as we have a local publication in the city of Rawlins. We have added to our public notice requirements, and if we have a special meeting or something that can't be published through the normal course of public notice, we will post it on the website. We will post it on all the doors at the city hall and try and get that information out on Facebook to present that. Now that applies to all boards and commissions of the city. It's not just the city council. Fire civil service, police civil service, animal shelter, all of those, planning and zoning, they all have to comport with that Public Records Act and the Public Meetings Act. So you don't have special rules for the governing body versus the municipality boards and commissions.
Are those board meetings held here in the public place, or?
Some of them are. Planning and zoning are typically held in city council chambers. Board of Adjustments is currently held here. Urban Systems meets at lunchtime in the basement of City Hall. I believe the rest of them are typically fire department, the civil service meets at the fire department, and the police department meets at the police department. But that's subject to the chairman determining where they're going to be. And it should be noticed. I mean, you should be able to find out when they meet, and absent an executive session, which very few of our boards and commissions should have that authority. They are open to the public. Work sessions. Work sessions are an opportunity for the council to ask, to provide them with the opportunity to ask more detailed questions about a subject matter, or to seek more detailed information from the public or interested parties. The important note for workshops is no official action should be taken. Now, it's a little bit of a difficult situation in that you don't have objections. You typically, what will come out of a workshop is typically an objection, or we're not ready for this action item, or we need more information, staff, go do these things. But you're not directing them. You're not saying, we're not going to vote on this tonight, or we will vote on this tonight. You're simply, the council simply discussing what the subject matter is and whether or not they have additional questions or they need additional information regarding it. The mayor has elected to move those workshop meetings upstairs. So they will be held in council chambers, and I believe they will be televised as they are tonight.
Is that action permanent now? Like,
It would be subject to the governing body.
okay.
Correspondence from members of the governing body. It's very important that one member of the governing body does not speak for the entire governing body. However, the public will view you as a city council member, and they will like to assert what you're saying is on behalf of the governing body, or that you're speaking on behalf of as a city council member. So you have to be very, very, very specific when you are sharing or making a statement that it's Terry Wycombe as, a council member elect, or Terry Wycombe is speaking as a private citizen on behalf of this issue, but not as a city council member. And the same thing goes for the mayor. You just have to ensure that if the city is going to take a position on a subject matter, that the council as a whole has an opportunity to weigh in on that. And a majority of them determine, yes, we want to advocate on behalf of wind energy development. We do not support further tax increases. Then as a whole, the city of Rawlins is making that decision. And so any member of the city of Rawlins staff or council can represent the city of Rawlins at a commission or board meeting to share that philosophy or policy statement. Public records law. So this is going to be a little tricky, and it's tricky for our council members currently. Public Records Act and the definition of a document, and with the advent of and the use of emails and the use of social media have kind of created an issue out there regarding these communications, securing the communications and not deleting the communications. That's why it's really important for you to determine up front if you want to use your city, if you want to obtain city emails and communications on your personal cell phone, you then become open to a subpoena ducis tecum on that, and is that something you want to do? WAM has various municipalities. Some have they purchase their own cell phone, and that is for city official business only. They don't engage in any personal communications on that phone, strictly limited to city. Some people are not as concerned with that private component, and they have their cell phone with their personal information, personal texts and emails, messages, as well as their city emails. Again, that's going to be a decision for each of you to decide, as well as the current council has wrestled with that idea as well. But it is something for you to consider moving forward, whether or not that's something that you're worried about or not. Conflicts of interest, again, governed by state statute. It's not, I think that the conflict of interest section could be amended. There's a little bit more that should be added, but again, I'm not a state legislator, so we'll rely on them to formulate the laws. In this instance, the Ethics or Disclosure Act addresses the use of your title, your position, your prestige of public office to influence organizations, groups, or employers. It addresses nepotism, misuse of the office. It addresses official decisions and votes, actions taken while negotiating for employment, penalties for violating the act, bribery, contract fixing, misuse of public property, and use of your position for gain to include gain for one's employer. No qualified member of the governing body or the qualified member's immediate family may receive any monetary or other economic benefit from any contract to which the city or town or anyone for its benefit is a party. That would be that special circumstance where if you have a conflict of interest and it's personal and it is monetary, the best approach for you is to excuse yourself from that discussion and leave the room. It's the safest. Again, that's going to be driven by the member. My recommendation would be, when in doubt, excuse yourself from that discussion. Again, you are, if you do that, you will not be present at votes, and you do not have to worry about abstaining because you won't be present at vote. And I know that kind of presents a problem when you're elected to represent your ward. And it's a subject matter that maybe your ward has some strong views on. But you absolutely have to be driven by that personal conflict of interest. So as much as you want to vote on behalf of your ward, you do have to identify that conflict of interest and remove yourself from that. Now, what could happen for your ward in between is that I know my council representative can't speak on this issue because he owns a business that could benefit from this particular ordinance. Members of your ward should be encouraged to come to a council meeting and provide public comment, so that the rest of the council members understand and hear what their views are and why they oppose it or why they support it. But essentially, you are acting on their behalf when you're making your vote on the floor. You're representing your ward and the benefit of the city of Rollins as a whole. I think we play upon this role of zoning a little bit, or wards a little bit. And that's why we have an at-large position, because essentially, yes, you're representing your ward. Yes, you need to listen to your ward, but you also have to do what's in the best interest of the city as a whole. So it's not just wearing that ward hat. It's about something larger than that, and making sure that whatever you do is in the best interest of the city. Discrimination and harassment, again, that's going to be driven by federal law. City of Rollins conducts annual harassment and discrimination training. Those are always open to the city council. We encourage the city council to attend those. Additionally, with the creation of our human resource director, we have been able to provide additional trainings, and she can tailor fit trainings based upon your needs or desires on a specific subject matter. So if one department or the city council is struggling with a Public Meetings Act issue or a harassment issue or discrimination issue, or they want to see something specific, we can do that specific training for the governing body and staff. Additionally, our city manager has begun quarterly, I would say monthly, work training sessions with key department heads and affected staff. So if there's an issue that needs to be addressed, whether it's FMLA, currently the big issue is with COVID-19, the relationship of trying to balance HIPAA and not release health information about an employee, but ensure that we're also not creating risks by not communicating certain things, to ensure that all of our staff are aware and are cognizant of what's going on with COVID-19. And so that would be something that we would need to.
Amy, on the discrimination or harassment training that you said annually, is there like a date that they normally do that right out of the gate at the beginning of the year, or is it just scheduled whenever?
So we had one this summer, we had one just this year. We'll have one again next year. That it can be tailor fit for the needs of the city. If you would like to see that sooner rather than later, we can do that. And especially if we do something over Zoom, that can be done at any time, or we can create those opportunities for the specific, if the council just wants that training immediately, we can do that. So at any time you want more information or training, just reach out to myself or the city manager, and we can make that happen. I think that the last component that I will probably, and you're probably very overwhelmed, it's a little bit difficult to first to try and give you just the basic framework, because Public Meetings Act and Public Records Act just engulf everything we do. I mean, it's the fundamental philosophy of our democracy. But what I hope to tell you and convey to you is the importance of encouraging transparency, the importance of notice and opportunity for hearing, the importance of trying to get the community more engaged so that they come to meetings so you can hear their issues and objections before you make a decision. And that to me is the central issue. There's nothing better than sitting in a council meeting and having the room filled with people that are interested and want to share their opinion on a subject matter. That's not a negative, that is a positive. And that's what the council has been trying to foster and create, and what hopefully we'll be able to continue in that endeavor as well. And staff is working on that as well. It's not to say we aren't going to have missteps. It's not to say that we're going to be perfect. But as long as we're all working in that same basic area to increase public participation, to increase public information and education. And I think Myra coming on board was a huge asset to the city of Rollins, and she's really bridged that gap between the public, the staff, other agencies in the city of Rollins, and the council. One thing to note, the council, as a council member, you're not compensated for the amount of time that you spend at public meetings and hearing from your constituents and hearing from staff and hearing from angry people traveling through the city of Rollins. And unfortunately, your phone is going to be ringing and ringing and ringing. And I think that's important for the public to note that you're not fully compensated for that. You do that as a public service on behalf of the city. And so I personally am completely thankful for all of you for what you do. I know the hours that are involved, the phone calls, the late calls, the texts, the fact that you can't go to lunch in public because someone's going to stop you at your table and ask you about this issue and why you're against it or why you're in support of it. And so my advice to each and everyone on here is self-care. Take time to make sure you are in a good position, you're healthy, you're getting enough sleep, and that you're ready to tackle the issues. As long as you read and you are informed of what's coming before you, you're not going to be an expert overnight. And you're not going to be able to hit every question that you need to be asked. And hopefully a year from now, you're not going to be the same council member that you are. I mean, you're going to grow, everyone grows. And so I would say, don't be too hard on yourself in the beginning. There is a lot of information, but there's also a lot of support and resources. And there's tons of years of service on this board as well as here that you can lean on and try and help navigate through this. But what I'm saying is you're not alone. And the important thing is for us to come together as a group. We may not always agree. You may not always be in the majority position. There are going to be times when your position ultimately does not win that day. But unfortunately, that's kind of the nature of what we do. But we have to make sure we don't take it personally and that we continue to work for the best interests of the city. And as long as we can continue to do that, but there's no stopping the city of Rollins. I mean, we are moving forward in a positive manner. The financial changes that the council has been able to work towards, the changes in the administration component, reviewing the city ordinances, and boy, you guys really need to thank them because they reviewed some of the most difficult ordinance sections that took months and months and months and months. And so those are the things that I say to you, just take it one step at a time, one bite at a time, and don't feel overwhelmed. And ask questions. My biggest concern is if there's an issue, let's catch it before it becomes set in stone. Let's not wait until a decision's made to determine we should have asked another question or we needed more information. Let's sort that out before we make a decision. And the same thing would go for staff as well. We want to catch those things before they become issues. And that's why we want to encourage public participation from the beginning.
Amy, when I take it the council gets a packet before the meeting of the upcoming things, when is that given to the council?
So typically it's released the same time as the agenda. Now, it used
Which
to,
is when?
Friday, the Friday before the council meeting on Tuesday.
Oh, okay.
And typically that used to be sent by hard copy and hand delivered. Now we have Word docs, and so it's available as soon as the city clerk, Sherry, finalizes that. It's available to you. You can request alerts. So as soon as it's released, you get an alert on your cell phone and you can go and review it. And then hopefully as soon as Monday morning, after you've reviewed everything, if you have questions for staff, you can follow up with the city manager, hopefully before Tuesday's meeting, to get those answers that you need to make a decision Tuesday night. And I would say you don't have to wait till Tuesday night. If you have a question regarding an invoice that we're paying to an engineering firm, I would say reach out to Sean that Monday with your question. And then give them time so that they can get with Public Works or the finance department can research it, get your question back to you, and then you can determine whether or not it's been resolved to your satisfaction or not. And if not, ask more questions. But if you wait for Tuesday night, unfortunately, you're going to have the department heads here, but they may not have the information that you need to answer your question.
Amy, did you tell them the time that you can get on the agenda? I think it's like Wednesday or something like that, so that the mayor gets a hold of it before, so he can put it on the agenda.
So typically, all agenda items have to be completed and to the city clerk by 5 p.m., I believe, on Wednesday before the meeting. There are certain limitations or circumstances during emergency situations where we can work with you if something absolutely has to be done, a grant deadline or something similar to that. But typically, I believe, and I could be wrong, but Sherry's in the room, I believe they have established Wednesday at 5 p.m. All agenda items have to be to the city clerk by that time. And then, of course, if something comes up, I would say, please contact Sean, our city manager, directly, and then he can do a case by case, or the mayor, obviously. But understanding that you're busy, they're busy, and so Sean might be the best person to give you that immediate answer regarding. Do you have any more questions? If not, I'm going to leave you some fun with Jody. She's going to walk you through finances.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. I think they have us up for you, so would everyone be okay if I did through the finance? Thank you. So what I'm going to present to you, what's in your books, is a combination from information I got from the Wyoming Association of Municipalities and my own knowledge of the subject. So I want to give credit to them as well. So to go over the finances, I'm going to follow what's in your book there. Chapter 6 is about city finance and sources of revenue, and property taxes are the primary source of revenue for municipalities. Second source is sales tax, and sales tax typically will outperform the property tax. Property tax is considered a stable source. Sales tax is considered a volatile source. So you can't always rely on what you earned this year will happen next year. Property taxes are usually more stable on that. So through all of this, you also have other taxes such as license, gas tax, and such like that. I want to make a distinction between what a tax is and what a fee is. A tax applies to everyone. regardless of who you are, it's a broad overreaching tax, amount. A fee is paid by users. So if you're going to the golf course, you're going to pay a fee. You're using the utilities, you're going to pay a fee. And that's the distinction between those two, which is very important to understand. Then for governmental accounting, regular businesses have expenses, but for governmental accounting, we call it expenditures. I think that's just to differentiate between what you're talking about. Now, the utilities are treated as an enterprise or proprietary type fund, and those are treated and operate as a regular business, and so that's why they have fees. They don't have the authority to tax. And so we have a lot of different types of services that a regular business won't have, and so when we're going to do the budget, which starts in January, we're very concerned about what we're spending our money on and why. And so that comes from the services that are demanded by the citizens. And generally, you have operating expenditures and you have capital type expenditures. Not everything, even though it may be a large sum of money, is a capitalized item. We may repair part of a road for several $100,000, but that's a repair that's not going to be capitalized, and that's an accounting thing that makes that distinction. So when we talk about capitalized, that's usually more like maybe the trucks, public works, large equipment, and if we have a brand new road that we're constructing, then that would be capitalized. Buildings would be capitalized. Desks and small jobs, ordinary maintenance, are jobs and are not capitalized. So it's important to maintain that distinction as well. So we also have in financing, we may or may not have sufficient funds to cover the cost of whatever it is the project may be, per se. Okay, so there's different ways that you can pay for that. You can issue bonds, you can issue or go to a bank and get a COP, which is Certificate of Participation, which is basically venture capitalists will go to the bank and they can put their money into that, earn a little bit higher interest perhaps. And so there's different forms of financing that you need to consider. What you want to keep in mind is you don't want to pay cash for everything. Let's say we outgrow this building and we need to build a new city hall. You're not going to want to pay cash for that. For one, if you save up, try to save up the money to pay cash, it's going to take you multiple years. With inflation, you may never get there. And best practices is that if you pay cash, you're giving future generations, future people who may move here a freebie. So that should be paid for by everyone over time. And so the Wyoming has some limitations on how many years you can extend that. But you want to be careful not that there are certain things you do want to go into debt for. And government, that would be a good debt. Personally, you may consider that a bad debt, but we have to be cognizant of how we want to pay for some of these things. Now, a number of years ago, we used to just have the revenue, the expenditures, and any residual positive amount left over at the end of the year just went into equity, which is a fund balance. So that was not sufficient for needs of investors and people who want to analyze between government and private businesses where they want to put their money. And we wanted more transparency. So GASB, which is what we are governed by, the Government Accounting Standards Board, said we're going to create 5 different categories. So the fund balance has non-spendable, restricted, committed, assigned, and unassigned fund balances. So what are those things? Non-spendable is inherently non-spendable. It's these desks, the chairs, things that is not cash, it's not liquid. And restricted is a result from limitations imposed by creditors, by grantors, bonds, revenue bonds, loans. They may restrict and say you have to have 1 year's payment for this loan. You always have to have that in cash set aside. That's a restricted category. And so we would put that and hold that separately. A committed fund balance is self-imposed by the council. And that is imposed, it's set in place prior to the end of the period, which is the end of the fiscal year, which is June 30th of every year. And that is imposed at the highest level of decision-making that requires the same formal action to remove that. So if you want to commit a certain amount of money for a project, and you say, we're gonna commit that, then that would be done by resolution. And then, so say, 6 months later, you want to not do that, it has to be done again by resolution rescinding it. So assigned fund balance is limitations resulting from the intended use of the funds. Intended use is established at the highest level of decision-making, the council, or by body designated for that purpose or official designated for that purpose. So committed is self-imposed, assigned is intended use. But again, that also has to be undone by the same method. What you want, the most important for you guys is on the council is unassigned fund balance. That's the residual amount after all these that come before it are taken care of. You can consider this in order of most important, the most restrictive to the least restrictive. And so unassigned is what you have available to spend. And that's where we pull for the budget. You can have a deficit budget, but it is presumed that you have the revenue or the money in one of these funds to cover that deficit. And so that's how you get to a balanced zero budget. I don't expect you guys to learn all of this now, but as we go along, I'll keep reiterating it and just ask any questions anytime, more than once. It's gonna take a while. And these are more technical things that I have to follow that I will convey to you guys as needed. So, as I said, is any unassigned balance is your that you can spend. And if you do have, I would ask that if you do want to commit anything, if someone wants to set aside this money, please do it by resolution because that creates an audit trail for me. And it makes it easier to go back and say, this is what we did with this and this is why. If you don't do that, then like me coming in as I am, I'm 2 months in, it's very hard for me to find out what had been done before and have any documentation to support that. So that's why I would come to you at the end of the year and let's figure that out. Then we have the budget process. The budget is a legal document, and that is your spending plan. And when we start that in January, the way that that works is that I will submit to all of the department heads a form that shows last year's, the current year, and we figure out what the estimated year-end balance is going to be. And they have to tell me what they want in their budgets for the next year. So that's the starting point. Then I review it and make my own adjustments, which are gonna be based on trends. I look at the history of it and I ask questions. And I may increase certain line items. I may decrease certain line items based on that trend, but I always talk to the departments first. I want to be respectful of them and what they know and what they're trying to do. And so we have a discussion on that. Then it goes to the city manager and me, and we sit down and we go through it. And then we go to the council, and the departments should have the opportunity to present to the council members what it is they need in their budgets and why. And then by May 15th, we have to do a formal approval by the council of that budget. So those are the various steps that go into this, and a lot of thought and hard work will go into making a prudent decision on what expenditures we need to have and everything. And I often will have additional schedules to highlight what capital projects we want to do and other things that I can get more in detail as we go along. I'm just kind of skating on the surface here. The budget, it does require certain information on there. It requires a column for previous year's budget, the current year's budget, the actual to date, and the estimated year-end figures, and then the proposed budget for the next year, and that's what you should have. And that will list by line item, every line item in there will be under review at that point. So that kind of takes care of the budget. And then the audit. So what's the audit? The audit is a review of how well we manage that budget, is really what that boils down to. And so with that audit, it is required, and for any town or city over 4,000 people, and so we fall into that. And that usually happens this year, and I think the previous year was not done until December. I have talked to our current auditors, and they are going to try to get it done earlier, around August or maybe early September of the next year is what we're working towards. So the auditor will come, I believe it's the second meeting, and present their findings.
Who is our current auditor?
It has gone through several changes, and it is currently BDO, and the lead auditor is Rolf Peterson, I think is his last name. I've only met him once. And I got here just as they were wrapping up. So, but that is, it's recently turned over BDO, bought them out, I guess.
I see.
It was Anton Collins Mitchell out of Denver, I believe. So, that's pretty much it for right now. Do you have any questions, any concerns?
You might mention to them what type of a system we use for the county.
Okay, we use Cassell, which in my opinion, I have worked on several municipal accounting softwares. And Cassell, I have found, is the best. And it's not without its limitations, but it is pretty substantial and provides information in the best format that I have seen. So what I'm gonna, that's great, because it's a segue into one of the other things that we're gonna do, is you need to have at least quarterly, is what the statutes say. I would prefer monthly, and I'm getting to that point where I can get more monthly here. The second meeting of each month is when I'll try to present those. Unfortunately, when it's like December, we're on the 1st and it's Tuesday, we don't have much time to do the bank reconciliations by the next meeting. So I will take what I have at that point in time and give that to you subject knowing, and I will let you know this is subject to change as we complete all of the bank recs. So this is what you will see. And I'll let you get some of these around. And I'll come back here just a second. Okay, so what you have here is a summary, and this is at a higher level summary because I don't need you to get detailed and worried about the line items. I don't worry about line items. It is the bottom line that is the legal budget. We can move around and shift money within the funds as needed. We're still at the bottom line is we're still okay. So that's.
Without a budget amendment?
You do not necessarily have to have it, but because we're guaranteeing, we're approving the bottom line. We are not approving the line items.
Okay.
So accuracy is king, and I need for the departments to put the expenditures in the proper line item. Because if they, well, I don't have enough money in this item, so I'll just code it to this item, that's not okay with me. And so what I want is, I'm not gonna increase their budget for a line item unless I see a reason for it. And so if they're putting it, reporting it where it needs to be in that particular line item, that's the appropriate line item, then they're fine if they go over. I'm monitoring that throughout the year. And so I have my sheet that goes out many months, and I can anticipate problems before they happen and discuss with them, with the department heads. And that will be part of our regular meetings each month that I'll have with them, hopefully starting in January. So, any questions on that? Does that make sense? Are you cool with that?
Jody, I think we need to also be very clear about enterprise funds or those committed funds that we,
Yes.
I call them enterprise funds. Because we can't take money out of an enterprise fund and use it for general administration
That's
type
correct.
of thing if it doesn't relate, let's say, to landfill or water and sewer. They have their own, so we can't just go into those funds and use it for something that's not.
Yeah, technically they can make a loan, but I would never recommend that.
We don't use that.
The enterprise needs to be self-sustaining. They need to have their fees, not just to cover the current costs, but they need to be setting money aside for future repairs and replacement of facilities. Now, again, those replacement of facilities, let's go out and get some grants and let's do a bond on those, because you're talking millions and millions of dollars on those, okay? And that's where you want to spread it out long-term over everybody, not have the current populace have to pay for it now. So, yes, so most of everything we do, most of it financial will be the governmental funds, but then, yes, you do have the separate utilities that are quite distinct. Any other questions?
This document here, is this gonna be published also for the public to see?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay,
I'm very open and transparent. There's some things I won't release, like salaries and stuff like that. But otherwise, or personnel files, but otherwise, everything is pretty much open.
okay. I'm just curious, because I mean, that's a big question I have kind of with stuff is, when you see the expenditures, you just look down and you read these items
Yeah.
bought and purchased, but there's no transparency to anybody else of what department it went to, I mean, to calculate that out without a report like that. You see what I'm saying, just in the public view?
Yeah, this is, I want to keep you at the 30,000 foot level, if you will, the summary. Because it becomes dysfunctional if you get into the weeds. And so, but I will work with you on that, and if you, anybody and everybody is welcome to come see me at any time, my door is open. And so if you have questions, I want to be very transparent in what I can give you. So, but anyway, this should give you enough, and from what people are going to, the department heads are gonna be coming up and talking to you each month, you'll understand what's happening within these. If you have specific questions, just ask me. So let me run through this really fast. So you have your revenue, and you can see those. Please pay particular attention to it. I'm going to work with Castell to make this a little more intuitive. Look at the year-to-date actual and the budget, and let your common sense rule here is take your budget, less the year-to-date actual, And then you'll see if you are over, if it's favorable or unfavorable. For instance, the first one, taxes, that variance shows a negative 1.2 million. Okay, that's a good thing because we're at 118% of what we thought we would have. So that's favorable. That's a good thing. So just because there's parentheses there, don't consider that a bad thing. Then you go down to your expenditures. And so you have all of those. If you flip the page, that gives you the totals. So, but going back, what you need to know is the variance. Are we good or are we favorable or unfavorable? And then look at the percent. That's the last column. Compare that to, at the very, very bottom, you'll see percent of the year elapsed. Okay, compare those two. Keep in mind that some departments will spend their money at the beginning of the fiscal year and then have very few as it proceeds. Others will spend evenly throughout the year. So if they go over, that's only, say, 75% when we're only 42% in, that's because they probably already spent the largest share of their money. Oh, sorry. Any questions on that? Okay. So I will walk you through these. I am working on improving this. This is all technically a lot I have to give you, but I don't think it's enough. What I am working on is also preparing a report that shows you the bank, what's in each bank account, because you should know how much money we have. And then also what our funds balances are and what are those categories. So you need to know those. And then I like to try to take it a step further. Some months I don't get the information I need to have financial highlights or coming attractions. A coming attraction would be like next month we have this debt payment that we're going to make of $150,000, whatever it may be. And so I like to have those financial highlights that touch on where's our sales tax at, how are we doing, and what are some other financial things that are going on. So you should, that's what I strive for. There will be times when I don't have time to get all of that, but I will get it to you the next month. So, or you can ask me. I do strive for every month that I'm human, and there may be those cases where it's hard to get all of it together. So, any questions before we go?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So we'll go ahead and take a couple-minute recess and let the girls get set up so we can get on with the council meeting. So we'll probably run about 5 minutes late on that, but go ahead and take a breather. Terry, you and Daryl need to move.
Yeah.
To different seats now, so.
We did just stay live and I just unmuted us.
Okay.
Um,
Well, we will go ahead and call the meeting to order. If everybody could rise to call me the pledge of allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Sherry, would you do roll call, please?
Mayor Nicholson,
Here.
Vice Mayor Sanger,
Here.
Councilmember Durst,
Here.
Espinoza,
Here.
Martinez,
Here.
Smith, here, Wells.
She waved her hand. Okay, so we have a quorum. So before we get started tonight, I would just like to take a couple minutes here and announce that, if nobody's heard or not, that we lost one of our city employees this weekend due to an illness, and it was Dino Sanchez. He had worked with the city of Rawlins since August 12th, 1993. Started out in the facilities maintenance department and worked his way up to vehicle maintenance. And then in July 2019, he became the central shop superintendent. So I'd just like to say our prayers go out to his wife Charlene and his family. And if we could just take a moment here and have a moment of silence for him and his family, I'd appreciate it. All right, thank you guys. Now move on down to the public hearing. Resolution authorizing city manager to add new positions and reorganize the public works department. Does anybody like to speak on that from the public or staff? Okay. We'll move on down to item B, an ordinance, second reading, amending Rawlins Municipal Code 15.12 flat work permits. Does anybody like to speak on that? Okay. Now move on down to citizens participation. This is the time that if there's anybody in the audience that would like to speak about something that is not on tonight's agenda, they have up to 5 minutes to do so.
Honorable Mayor, at this time, I would like to acknowledge we have Rebecca Hinman and Monica Garcia. They are in Jennifer Moore's Polls 1000 class for U.S. and Wyoming government, and they're here to observe and participate, and we're excited to see them.
Okay. Well, glad to have you here. Is there anybody from the audience that would like to speak on anything?
Mr. Mayor, I just like to make a comment. I just want to say that I know that there was, this has been a tough year for everybody across the board. And I know that like Rebecca and Mike and Jeremiah, there's a lot of people that did a lot of turkey dinners and a lot of giveaways. So I'd just like to say thank you to everybody in the community that has participated in helping everybody around. And just thank you for making it a little bit better.
I agree with that. Thank you. Okay, now we'll move on down to item 4, the approval of the minutes of November 17th. Councilman Espinoza.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve the city council regular meeting minutes of November 17th, 2020 as presented.
Okay. Councilwoman Smith seconds. Any objections to that motion that was made? Okay. If not, Sherry, would you open online voting, please?
Online voting is closed and the motion carries with 7 yeas.
Okay, thank you. Now we'll move on down to correspondence reports. The first one here is the city manager's report, which unfortunately the city manager is unable to attend tonight.
He's actually attending via Zoom
Oh, he is on Zoom?
Yes.
Okay, well, he is home with COVID, so.
and still attending.
Can you hear me? I just unmuted myself.
Now we can hear you a little bit.
Can you hear me okay? How's this?
Good enough.
Good enough? Okay. Yes, I'm glad to be able to join you tonight. I just have a few items that I wanted to bring up. Um, I heard recently, just a couple hours ago, that it sounds like Carbon County has extended the mask mandate for our county. I would be interested in having the city buildings closed to go along with whatever new date they have. It sounds like it might be going into the beginning of January, and I think it could be prudent for us to also keep our buildings closed along with that mask mandate. So I just wanted to give you my thoughts on that. Can you still hear me okay? Just making sure.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, very good. Secondly, this Thursday, we have our SLIB. The SLIB board will be meeting to review our COVID application of the $2.8 million. I visited with one of the SLIB employees today. It sounds like they have over 200 applicants have put in an application for that remaining funding. So we'll definitely do our very best to get as much funding as we can. And I also think that as I visited with them, I think we have prepared a good application that is what we really need due to COVID. So I think we stand a good chance to get some funding there. Thirdly, we just as a reminder, we would like to do another council training, which would be this upcoming council meeting just prior to at the same time, 6 o'clock. What is that, December 15th, I believe? Yes, December 15th. And then this time, and also I would also like to say, just want to give a big thanks to those that prepared that training tonight. For Amy and Jody and Myra putting all that materials together. They did a really good job. I think that was beneficial. And so the next training, we would like to have all of our department heads present to you and just be able to explain a little bit about each department and how each department functions. So you can kind of get the whole scope of what the city does. And then lastly, I've been looking into doing a council retreat to do a strategic planning session as a council so that we can determine what our mission, vision, strategic objectives, initiatives, all those different things. I think it would be super valuable for us as a council to be able to think through those things. And I'm very interested in having a third party host a council retreat to do that strategic planning to guide us through that process. I visited with, I know quite a few city managers. One of them I know is exceptionally good at strategic planning for the city that he currently works in, and he does strategic planning on the side to help other cities. And I would recommend that we, if it's okay with the council, that I reach out to him and pick a time where we can do some strategic planning. I would be interested in doing maybe towards the end of January or early February, and I'll reach out with a subsequent email from this meeting to with some proposed dates. But in visiting, I visited with this individual today actually, and he said that it would be good if we could have like a Friday and a Saturday. If we finish early on a Saturday, that's great, but I would plan for 2 days to have a thorough experience doing strategic planning. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Sean. Any questions for Sean?
I think that's a good idea. Thank you, John.
Thanks.
Take care of yourself.
Thank you. I'll be talking one more time tonight.
All right, now we'll move on down to item B, the Starlight Parade street closure. Like Pam's on her way up to fill us in.
Honorable Mayor and Council, good evening. Wanted to let you know that we got a street closure from the Rollins Chamber of Commerce, and there have been a couple changes from what you guys have in your board docs. Well, first of all, I want to preface saying that we are, as the department and myself, looked at the street application And we are going to allow deviating from the 3 approved routes that we had set in place years ago to keep things really good for the police and for the fire and for everything. But we are going to allow the deviation from the 3 approved due to the governor's health orders, because usually this train ends at the depot. And if the chamber would like to move it up to the Shriners to end up there, because the Shriners is the bigger facility and the 25% of the gathering through the health orders. So we are allowing the deviation of the map or of the route. But I did want to say, work with Megan from the chamber today, Public Works this evening, and Troy. And we are actually going to change that route one more time after talking to Megan and really kind of getting the biggest bang for our buck and for our downtown businesses. That the route that they had put on going from 5th and Front to 5th and Spruce to 5th and Pine is a pretty one short route, concerned about social distancing, but more than that, open businesses on a Saturday at 5 p.m. are very small. So what we're going to do is I will present, I mean, this is how scribbly it is, this is how quick it is, but pretty much what we're going to do is line up down on Front and 3rd, use those lots that we own and everything, get everybody situated, go up north on 3rd, just to Cedar, cover our 2 big blocks of downtown businesses between 3rd and 5th, then head north on 5th and head up to Shriners. So we're just going to kind of almost reverse it, the approved route that we've done in the past. And I will get that out. We're going to put it out. I talked to Megan. She said if everybody powers to be at the city, police and everything were good, we will post this new route with all the information and help them with their marketing to let people know that it's ending at the Shriners and not at the depot this year.
Okay. Any questions for Pam? Councilwoman Smith?
Not a question, but I would like to recognize PDA and Steve Sanger and all of the people that helped with the start at our downtown decorations. They're very nice.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And on that note, I want to also give a call out to Rocky Mountain Power this year. They're the ones that got the Christmas star lit. I did touch base with Rocky Mountain Power, confirmed that it was them. 2 guys hiked their way up there last week and flipped it on. So Rocky Mountain Power, I just wanted to give a call out to Rocky Mountain Power and supporting the community and also getting the star lit.
Thank you. Now move on down to the approval of tonight's agenda. Councilwoman Smith.
I move that we approve the agenda as presented.
Okay. Second. Do we have a first and a second? Any objections to that motion was made? Sherry, would you roll call that vote, please?
Online voting is closed and the motion carries with 7 yeas.
Now move on down here to a board appointment for Fire Civil Service Commission, Rebecca Perkins. Make it a motion, please. Councilwoman Smith.
I move to approve the appointment of Rebecca Perkins to the Fire Civil Service Commission for the term ending November 30th, 2023.
Okay. We have a first and a second. Rebecca, would you like to, or Becky, would you like to come up and tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're interested in continuing your service on the board?
Well, I've been on the board for 30 years. I am one of the only founding fathers left since Sam Kelly and Carol Allen have since deceased. I have enjoyed my time with the fire service. I left my fire service in 1988. If I had been interested in being on this board, and I was quite scared that I feel that we've accomplished a lot in 30 years. I think that I'd like one more chance. There's a couple of things I'd like to straighten up within civil service rules, bring in a new fire chief. You know, we've got some upcoming promotions coming, and I think one more time around, I think I'd be good to go.
Okay. Any questions for Becky?
Sounds like you got a plan. That's
I really tried. Thank you.
All right. If there's no objections to the motion, Sherry, would you open online vote, please?
closed and motion carries with 7 yeas.
All right, well, congratulations, Becky. Right, now we'll move on down to unfinished business. First item is an ordinance, second reading amending Rollins Municipal Code 15.12 plywood permit. Councilman Martinez?
Make a motion to approve on second reading, waive the reading of the ordinance amending Rawlins Municipal Code 15.12 flatwood permits.
Okay. Councilman Sanger seconds that. Danielle, is there any changes or anything you want to fill us in on?
There are no changes. I just came up in case you have any questions for me. So,
Okay. Any questions for Danielle? Nothing changed?
I would just say out loud publicly that I just received the one email that was not in support of it, that I had forwarded, and just to say, just a reminder that there wasn't a thing against it.
All right. If there's no other questions or comments, then Sherry, would you open on that motion, please?
Online voting is closed and motion carries with 7 yeas.
Okay. Now we'll move on down to new business. The approval of payroll. Councilman Sanger?
I move to approve November 8th, 2020 through November 21st, 2020 payroll register for $219,689.57.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Any questions or objections to that motion that was made? Okay, Sherry, would you open online voting, please?
Online voting is closed and motion carries with 7 yeas.
Okay. Now move on now to approval of account payable. Councilwoman Smith?
I move to approve the accounts payable register for the period of November 13th, 2020 to November 20th, 2020 in the amount of $415,055.94.
Okay. Councilman Singer, second. Any questions or objections to that motion was made? Sherry, would you open online voting, please?
Online voting is closed and motion carries with 7 yeas.
Okay. Now move on down to item C, the bid award of public works street dump truck with plow and sand. Get a motion? Councilman first.
I move to award the Public Works dump truck with plow and sander to Peterbilt of Wyoming in the amount of $188,064, less a trade-in of $21,500, totaling $161,564.
A correction on that, it was $166,564. Councilman Espinoza?
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a first and a second. Danielle?
Honorable Mayor and City Council, we did put this item out to bid, and I did actually come to you guys at the last meeting to award the landfill truck. This is just for the streets truck. I had wanted to do some additional research before I brought it back to you guys. We did receive 3 bids from 2 bidders on this, Floyd's Truck Center and Peterbilt. The lowest bid was Floyd's with the hoist equipment, and it did not meet numerous specs, which I have listed, and if you want me to go through, I can. So we are proposing to award to the next lowest bidder, Peterbilt. And then if you guys have questions for me, I will try to answer them, but I do want to let you guys know that Jeff with Floyd's Truck Center is here and would like to talk to you guys about the bid documents as well. So I'm going to give the floor to him, and then I can kind of follow up or help answer any questions.
But before we get to him, could you explain to what his bid did not meet?
Yeah, so he had 2. So the Ameritech bid does meet specifications or specs, but it was the highest bid. So the one with the hoist equipment, It was spreader chains, latching, the hitch and cylinders, and then there were other, and I didn't list them, I'd have to go through everything that listed uncertain, which to me would show that they may or may not, so, on the bid. But again, I'll hand the floor over to you, Jeff.
Evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. Jeff Brown, Floyd Truck Center out of Chelan, Wyoming. I'm here tonight to respectfully ask the city council not to award the bid to Peterbilt, Wyoming. For a couple of reasons, actually, just to, the city puts out a minimum bid spec to assure that the equipment that you guys are purchasing will do the job that you're asking it to do. And on my research going through this Peterbilt spec and bid docs, I found two places where they did not take the exception that they should. One being item 4.1 on page 4 of the bid spec. The bid requires a minimum of 370 horsepower with a 1,250 torque rating engine. And Peterbilt submitted and notated that they bid a 350 horsepower motor with 1,000 foot-pounds of torque. So an underpowered engine. That's what they submitted there on the bid. And then again on 4.2 on page 5 of the bid docs, the bid requested to have a snow door in the air intake system. And what is that? It's the air intake is on the side of the hood. And so when it plows down, you get a bunch of brush up snow. Well, that sucks into the air intake. What the snow door does is shuts it off from that side, and then it starts sucking the air out from under the hood. So you don't get clogged air intake, and plus you're sucking in warmer engine air. It runs more efficient. So, like I said, these were minimum specs. I could have gone with 350 horsepower motor. I could have not done the snow door, and I probably would have done it. But I met spec on both those. Peterbilt, Wyoming did not take an exception on the snow door, but they did note in their bid doc that they did submit a bid for a 350 horse. So I'll be here for any questions.
Okay. You have any questions?
Well, for him, I guess I would just add, if we're saying, if he's saying that the according, and I apologize, man, I've got 1,000 copies, I don't know specifically which one.
On the
so if he's saying that Peterbilt didn't meet the specifications, I guess I would just ask for our response to that.
Well, there's one symbol we can show right now in this item under the attachments, the very last two. If you open up the second to the last, it says Peterbilt snowplow with sander. Scroll down to where in the bid section of it, it'll be page 4. And at the bottom, he wrote 350 horse. And right above that, it shows 370.
Is what the bid said. I want 370.
The bid says the minimum horsepower for this engine needs to be 370.
There's actually a couple of documents.
I understand. I had a shuffle through them too as well.
I'm looking for.
It should state, if you want, I can probably help show you too.
Yeah, you would.
That would maybe help. So it is going to be this one here, and I think it's like 6 pages down.
Yeah.
If you kind of scroll it, like you said, but I think it's actually 6 in that document. Did you find it? No.
It's just a second.
So it's this document here. Yeah.
Danielle, when you considered recommending Peterbilt, were you aware of that item?
So
Of the 350 versus 370?
So I can't answer to the 350. I was not prepared for that question.
I'm sorry, I found it recently, and I've looked at this before too, so I found that today.
So that one, I would need to do some additional research and look into. The snow door, I was aware of. In fact, it's notated on the specs that they do need that. So I did some research, and that was part of the reason it came to you guys at this meeting. I spoke to the salesman with Peterbilt specifically and said that you notated that you can meet this. Is that accurate? He said yes. I was told about another municipality in Wyoming that bid a truck where Peterbilt was the lowest, and it was reported that the truck came in and did not meet specs. So I called that municipality. They did not confirm that. They said that they did get the truck, that there was one issue. They took it back to Casper, fixed it, got the truck back, met all specs, had nothing but great things to say about Peterbilt. And then I did some additional research today. So they don't call it Peterbilt, it's called I don't know if I'm gonna say this right, Brunner air intake, but it is the same thing. It is a door that goes on the intake. And then I even called, because I did talk to Jeff earlier today, I even called a dealership in Michigan that sells Peterbilt. We talked about Michigan because they get a ton of snow, they get wet, heavy snow, so if they're gonna have an issue, they would know. I talked to a gentleman there to see if they have the ability to do that, and he also confirmed that they do. He said actually two things, that Peterbilt trucks have the air intake, and I have pictures, and I'm not gonna lie to you guys, this is not my area of expertise, but I will try to tell you. But they have, their air intake sits at the top, and then if you see their actual truck, you'll see the covers on the side. But they do put a cover on this, or a door that's again the same thing as a snow door. They just don't call it a snow door. But the guy, like I said, he said two things. One, we don't need that because he said that any Peterbilt truck that he's ever sold, and he is like the snow plow expert in Michigan and has sold thousands of these, said that they've never had an issue and we won't need it. And then two, that they can provide that item.
I guess
So
my first question is whether it needs it or not isn't, well, we put it in there as a spec.
But they can meet that. It was kind of two parts.
Right, but then with the horsepower of the motor. So I guess my question here is just looking at Floyd's Truck Center in Cheyenne. The price was $154,401. So I guess why did you roll that out versus?
Are you,
The net difference was, I wasn't as high on the trade as Peterbilt was.
Okay.
and it's only, ultimately, we can do whatever you guys want. I think the overall price was like $2,000 difference. Both bids are well under budget on this item, a considerable amount.
I guess
So
my
we have the
concern here
budget.
is if this truck met spec completely and the other one is questionable. That's the question I have.
So what I would ask you guys, because I didn't look at the engine, and at that point, I didn't fully go through Floyd's truck with the Ameritech, so I would like time to review that. So if anything, I would actually ask you guys to postpone the bid to the next meeting. So that I can, because I don't want to tell you guys either that, and I'm not saying that they've sold us trucks. We awarded it to them for the landfill truck. They're decent equipment. I just want to make sure the information I'm giving you guys is accurate and, that it's true, I guess, is my thing. So I just want to make sure I get time to review that and make sure there's no other issues.
Yeah, on yours is a Freightliner, 350.
Yes, ma'am. No, 370 was.
You did get 270.
Yes, ma'am.
So protocol question. If we all just vote no to award the bid tonight, to let Danielle go and do.
No, because that would kill it.
That was my question.
What I would do is to postpone the bid.
So you'd have to, whoever made the motion would need to amend their motion. Whoever seconded it would have to follow with that amendment.
With
Is
that,
that correct?
legally
It
suffice?
would be better to table it.
Postpone would be great.
I think I made that original one, correct?
Yeah.
So then I move to postpone the bid award for the Public Works dump truck with plow and sander to the next meeting on December 15th.
I'm happy the first and second, the first time,
Or second.
which would be, because he's amending this first.
December 15th.
Got that, Sherry? Okay.
And that'll.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, and then just, review them both and make sure you know that.
Yeah, that'll just
Yeah,
give me
and
time to
then,
go through. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Online voting is closed and the motion carries with 7 yeas.
Thank you. Now move on down to item D, this is a discussion, to amend the Rollins Municipal Code, to use reflective device tape or something for on-street park trade. An item that Dabari, wanted to discuss.
I'm taking that, I have to make a motion for discussion.
We shouldn't, because we're not doing action tonight, it's just gonna be discussion. So we can just discuss it, there's no action taken tonight. And then we decide on, if we decide on yea or nay, then we can put it on the next, agenda as an action item.
Yeah, this subject came up. I had a gentleman call my house and was wondering, being that the ordinance on trailers was defeated, that if we could find a way to have people that park their trailers on the street be able to put some type of reflectors to show that there's flatbed trailers and different types of trailers on the street. I don't have a problem with it. I told him I would bring it up. I thought it was a kind of a decent compromise to those people that wanted to remove the trailers on the street. I kind of wanted to see how the council felt about it before I took some action on it. So that's why I'm here.
I'm not opposed to that, Dabari, most of the park stores and so forth, do sell those little, they're about 18-inch long, reflective tape strips. They go on a lot of flatbed trailers on the side or wherever you want to put them. And I think, that would make it a little bit more visible that there is something there, especially at nighttime when headlights hit it, it really reflects off those. So I wouldn't be opposed to something like that. Councilman Espinoza?
I think I brought it up a couple of times, but mentioning the black flatbed trailers are hard to see at night. I believe up on Colorado Street, there was a trailer that was hit years ago. But, they're hard to see after sundown. But the Barry might also consider on there that those reflectors should face the direction of the traffic.
Yeah.
So, because I do notice some trailers were, and I'm sure there's probably an ordinance on it, but some of those trailers are completely having the tongue out in the direction that the cars are going, and you don't see the reflective tail light. Or, it's just dark. But, have these reflectors on the trailers that they're gonna be out on the street.
It seems to me that the only way that we would be able to enforce this would be to amend our parking ordinance, allowing the trailers on the street, amend it and add this language, add some language to it that would say that people My neighbor down the street, he has his flatbed, he uses these big cones, has his trailer surrounded with cones. I guess that'll work.
Should probably mention dusk, too, you know, the trailers should be visible dusk with their reflector tape back there. That way they're not sitting there.
And here's the thing, you know, when people call me, and it's always been my way of doing things on the council, when people call me, I bring them up. Sometimes they're popular and sometimes they're not. But I feel it's my responsibility as a council to address these subjects when they come up and let the council in on it because they're the ones that make the decision. So that's where I'm on that. I just want to get a feel as to how people felt about this. It's a good idea.
What are your thoughts, Steve?
Well, I'm actually on the other side of this, only because when that trailer was sold, it met the specifications for 50 states. So it's legal to be on the road as it is for 50 states, or it wouldn't be there now. If it's parked backwards, that's an obvious problem, just enforcement, parking code, right, which you park the wrong direction. But if the vehicle is already meeting its 50 state requirement, us to require them to do something else for our convenience, not necessarily for the purpose of solving the problem. If it snows, the snow sticks to that tape just like it sticks to everything else. It gets covered up no matter what you do. So would it work when there's no snow on the ground? Yeah, as soon as it snows outside, you can't see it in. So I would be on the other side of that.
Okay. Councilwoman Smith?
I haven't formed an opinion on that. I had a trailer sitting on the street and it got ran into because somebody had a problem with trying to dodge a cat or something. It had nothing to do with not being able to see it, but I think I can understand if it's legal in all 50 states, why impose anything additional on people's property. The other side of it is if it's something that keeps people safer, then maybe that's the consideration. So I could go either way. I have to do some.
Okay. Councilman Durst?
Well, at the moment, I tend to not want to make things harder than the federal, the DOT, all this has already been put into place and there's legal specifications on that already. I tend to not want to make it worse. I think it's part of a bigger discussion because I still think this is far from a resolved issue, clearly. I would be okay with having a discussion, but as far as just implementing willy-nilly, I don't think I could support that. You're gonna start getting into, so then how much is enough? I mean, is it 18 inches, is it 12 inches? We're going off of nobody's standard other than the 7 of us. And I don't think that it's reasonable to impose that type of restriction. I could see having something where maybe some reflector in general is part of the ordinance, some kind of a something, but we won't have more talk about that. I mean,
okay.
But I agree. I think the DOT has resolved what does or doesn't need to be on that trailer, and as long as it's legally on the road, it's legally on the road.
Okay. Next, Councilwoman Wells, what her thoughts are? Can you hear me, Jacqueline? I can't hear you.
Hold on.
She is not muted. We are not muted.
Jackie, are you muted?
How are you with sign language?
She can chat it to me and I can read it off. If
Sarah,
that's
we
what
could just have a call a cell phone real quick.
I would like feedback from the public, is what Jacqueline said.
Okay. All right. Go ahead, DeMar, you had a question or statement?
Yeah, I guess the other thing that I brought up was the person that called me, he wasn't an angry person. he wasn't disappointed that we didn't pass he was disappointed that we didn't pass the ordinance. But he said, look, that's the way it goes. He was just suggesting for the purpose of safety in the community that if we could do something like this, I said, I would bring it up. The question to me was, how do you enforce it? Well, the only way you would be able to enforce it is if it's in the ordinance itself. It says you have to have a sticker and you be able to, the traders have to park. Directions of traffic, things of that nature. So that's the reason that I brought it up. And I thought it was the person that called was very respectful and he was interested in trying to help us solve the problem.
Okay. Well, it sounds like at this point right now, it's not really gonna go anywhere to Barry, but we did have some discussion about it, and there obviously needs to be more discussion as we move forward of the whole ordinance. Okay. Now we'll move on down to item E. This is a resolution authorizing the city manager to add new positions and reorganizing public works to the 2020-21 fiscal year in accordance with Wyoming State Statute 15-4-202G and amend the 2020-2021 pay plan. I'd like to make a motion to authorize the city manager to add the new position for only the deputy city attorney and the IT person.
I will second that.
Okay, we have a first and a second on that. Some discussion. Sean, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
So as the motion stands right now is to authorize the two positions. But we'd like to hear everything that you have to say also.
Okay. And also, if Jody and Stephanie are still there, I'm not able to hear everyone perfectly. If you have questions, they're very familiar with this request as well, so maybe they could come up too.
Okay.
So the information technology specialist, I think, is as we've taken a look. Well, actually, let me back up just for 1 second before I talk about each one. As I've been looking at the needs of the city, originally I was just looking at just 1 or 2 positions, and then I started to look into this further and just looking holistically for the city. What are our needs? What do we need to operate efficiently? So the IT is one that we are just killing ourselves right now with only having an IT person at the city once a week. We are inefficient on all accounts across the board. When we can't get someone here to help us, say on a Wednesday when Austin is not here helping, it just puts us in a bad spot over and over again. The great thing about this suggested change is with only with the amount that we're paying for that 1 day a week throughout the year, we can basically have a full-time person here for relatively close to the same cost. So that one makes a lot of sense to me. The deputy city attorney is one that, as we've taken a look at the needs here, Amy does an excellent job. The issue that we have is that we need more of Amy to be able to meet the needs of the city and to keep us out of litigation issues. Some thoughts along those lines is to be able to have a deputy city attorney attending the different various boards and providing training, spending more in one-on-one time with our city staff to help them with filing, with legal questions. We just need more of Amy, essentially, if I am just going to boil it down. And then after that, we go to the city engineer. Staff has looked really closely at the costs that we've incurred over several years prior to now. We believe that we would be able to not pay outside services in the range of $90,000 to $110,000 annually by having a full-time engineer here. So for me, that justifies the reason for having a part-time engineer go to a full-time engineer. I think
Can
what,
I ask you a question, Sean?
yes,
So on that engineer position, I guess it was my understanding, this is prior to you, that when we added that part-time engineer position, that was gonna fulfill our needs, because I guess at the time, we did not have a need for a full-time, and the part-time was sufficiently gonna cover our needs. So I guess my curiosity is, what has changed that's requiring us for a full-time now?
well, if we could get Danielle up here for a second too, I think that would be helpful, as she's been a key part of those numbers, to have her speak to that.
Well, you put me on the spot a little bit.
Well, I'm kind of curious, because a year or so ago, we put on the part-time engineer that would, I thought, our understanding, I believe, was that it was gonna take care of all outside engineering costs, and a part-time person would cover that. So is the part-time person not covering everything we need? Is that where we're at?
Yes, I don't know if I was part of that. If I was, I certainly don't recall, so I apologize for that, the previous conversation, but our part-time engineer is amazing. I really like him. He does a great job for us, but yes, I would say that our needs we are struggling to get all of them met. When we get the projects done, they do look really good. They work for the city and I think have been successful, but they're taking a lot longer to get back to us than what, if we had a full-time engineer, they would. Our part-time engineer is stretched really thin, and we do have a lot of engineering needs. I did work with Stephanie and Sean and Jody, and we looked at like the history on what we spend on engineering and where we could cut a lot of those costs if we had a full-time engineer, and there is quite a significant savings. I do want to make it clear that I don't want to imply or say that we would never contract out an engineer again, especially on larger projects, that if we had an in-house engineer, we gave it to them, they would be able to do nothing else ever. Because we do have, as you guys know, have some huge projects, especially in public works. I mean, just our spring project is estimated to be 4.9 million. But so we looked at just where we could save. We didn't include any survey work. I didn't include any work on our major projects like the 2019 water project, 2018 water project. None of that was included in those estimates. And we figured out the average was right. Sorry, I don't have my notes. I'm shooting off first. Sorry.
Yeah, the average savings would be roughly $100,000 per year by bringing him in-house and exchanging. Right now, he's making about $63,000 with his salary. That's as of today or this payroll. So there's still 2 more payrolls to go.
So then that is a part-time.
And yeah,
that's averaging about, I think it was 38 hours every 2 weeks. So about 28.
I worry a little bit about, as Rollins has struggled through the years with different engineers and different engineering firms, we tend to get off our track and get sidetracked by a little bit, because different engineers have different ideas that doesn't necessarily work with Rollins. And the current engineer we have now seems to know the direction we want to go. So I worry about that if we bring in somebody else, that all of a sudden we're going to start reinventing the wheel and going a different direction on things. We wind up costing more money of the direction that we don't want. Councilwoman Smith?
When I first looked at the proposal to hire 4 more individuals permanently, that's somewhere around $600,000 plus 38% more in benefits, give or take percentage point. That's up around $900,000. That is a permanent line item. They're coming off the administrative portion of our revenue. And so if I'm not sure that this economy could sustain those positions over a long period of time. But I kind of backed off because I heard you say to me that you have calculated and we have outsourced enough engineering that if we did get a full-time person, we would save $100,000. An IT person, we're already putting out that amount of money. Therefore, having a person on staff is a wash. I know with the deputy city attorney, I have no patience with that because I know what we spend on outside attorneys. This would leave a huge portion of our outgo. So that to me is a wash. But I just wanted to make sure that people know that we need to watch what we do permanently because I'm not sure this economy is going to sustain more full-time positions.
We have thought about that, and we know this is a very difficult decision, and coming up with how to say this and everything, we're trying to be very careful not to give the impression that this is a done deal. We can't guarantee these savings. It's based on logical reasoning and based on our assumptions. That's why under Exhibit A, I make sure we said that these are assumptions and their best reason. The numbers that you have on here, that includes benefits. It does. And how I come about that is the general rule of thumb is take for every dollar you spend in salary, you can add another 40 cents in benefits. So I take their salary times 1.4. And that's how we came up with these. A few we may have rounded off a couple dollars. And so that's how we came up with those. And then we also acknowledge that all of the positions that we looked at, they interrelate with each other. And bear with me, if you will, because it's very difficult to articulate this. So in doing all of these, some will benefit other positions and will realize savings from other positions that we may add. For example, the economic development grant writer. That position is to help bring in economic development into the town because we need to grow. We need to do something right now. It would be my impression that we're kind of stagnating and through the highs and the lows, and we need someone to help with that. The grant writing is also thrown in there is part of their duty is to find these grants, ergo savings that we would otherwise have to spend. That's part of their job would be to find us those grants that we can implement and that we would be able to use those. And someone can also chime in to help me say this better, but I understand that a while back there was money spent for someone like this and they didn't do anything. This position, their job is to find these grants to bring in that economic benefit. If they don't do that, then they're not going to be.
Well, what worries me with that position in particular is, you know, right now through this whole COVID deal and the whole thing, knock on wood, Carbon County is doing probably the best in the state economically, with taxes and so forth. So we're looking good economically, but or taxes or so forth. But the other counties aren't. I feel we're gonna see the tail end of that next year. So we put on this position. Everybody out there is going to be after those grants. There's going to be less grants available because there is no revenue there to go after. So I feel we're putting somebody on at the kind of the worst time, going after money that aren't going to be there.
And that's the unknown. Granted, like any budget, it's a crystal ball effect, and we have to make the decision with the best information available. If we find out that the economy does go down, I agree with you.
Well, I hate hiring people and then turn around and having to lay them off in a year.
And we have discussed that quite at length also. We feel that overriding this is bringing some of these people in-house is, we're not really paying much more, like you said, most of it we expect, and I want to highlight, we expect this to be a wash. We cannot guarantee that, but that's what the reasoning and the logic show us. So, and by doing some of these additional, moving some people around, like in public works, getting better use, reorganizing them, will bring efficiencies that should also help pay for that. So there should be better use of our knowledge there. And so through all of this, it's hard to take just one position at a time. If you take the whole picture, you can see how they interrelate and work within each other. And I don't want to say we're shifting money around, but some positions should save us more money than what their salary is. They're ergo offsetting some of the other salaries. That's the assumption, that's the reason that we have relying all of this.
So I guess another thing that kind of caught my eye was the pay grades that were down here. It seems like the pay grades are a couple grades higher than I think where they should be with where they're at. Seems like they're at the higher end of the scale already versus starting out at the lower end of the scale and having something to work for. And seems like my thought, we're just offering too much to start with in those pay grades.
And some of the things we did, kind of addressing that up front, is we actually took, we went to a website called ONET, which is the federal website that does analysis on pay scales throughout the nation and particularly through Wyoming. And you can actually go down and tear down per position. And so we took those, that analysis, took that into account, and actually that's where we came up with those figures.
So, but with that, I guess one thing that alarms me without looking at the whole picture is we have employees with the city that's been here for 10, 20, 30 years that, and I know we're working on it, but they're not actually where they should be in a pay grade situation. But yeah, we're gonna bring in new employees and I'll automatically put them where they should be, while all the others that have worked here and put in their time still aren't where they should be. So to me, that doesn't look fair to the workers that have been here for years.
And I totally understand that too. That's something that Sean and I have talked about, is actually looking at that salary structure. And we'd like to do that. We're planning on doing that in the near future, going through that salary structure. But I think it's really important when you add a position to make sure that it matches where it should be or where it's being paid nationally. And I think that's what we did through that analysis.
Councilwoman Smith?
I have faith in Sean's recommendations that this is what this organization needs to move forward and get out of the rut that we're in. We haven't done any projects. We're dealing with stuff that we're not moving forward, and I think these positions would. But I cannot, in good faith, in this current climate, economic climate, say to this council that we should do any of this. I think it'd be more prudent if we waited until the next budget time and go through this very thoroughly and very open and honestly with our new council people, because I just don't feel this economy is going to be where we want it to be in a year. And I think I'd rather be prudent and try to hold on and do the best we can on projects and move forward and not cause any harm to any of our employees or our financial condition. So that's where I'm coming from.
Councilman Martinez?
I thought about this quite a bit over the weekend, and there was a couple of questions I had. One is the grant one was a big question because of the economy and how much money is out there for a grant writer to go after because of the problems we're having in the country. The other thing was I thought that Sean putting the package together of what he'd like to change, putting the tools together that would allow him to run this city and with his own team on on board, making the changes that he did was a way I like that idea. I concur with Councilmember Smith that our biggest question was the budget. And I think you folks have kind of answered a lot of those questions for me. You know, if we're having to hire attorneys outside to come in and help us, that's a problem. If we can save money by doing that, by having an assistant, and it seems like you've done the research on it and showed that. I support that. I think that this council needs to be active in the assistant city attorney that we get, because when our attorney's off doing whatever she does, the next person stepping up works for the city council. And so we need to be more involved with that position. I strongly support Sean's recommendation. I guess my biggest question is the budget. And I think that doing away with maybe the grant writer would help right now. I did ask the question to myself, where does a new council come in when we're making, this council here is making the changes for the new council coming on? I would like to see them on board working on some of these decisions. So that was my take.
I would like to make one more point. As I understand it, is what you see here is what their salaries are, and keep in mind that some of these salaries are already being paid. I'm going to do a hypothetical with the civil engineer. I'm just going to pull that one out and use that as an example. Let's say, for instance, we advertise this, and the best qualified is Carl, and he's already making $63,000, and that is at I'm going to guess a little bit more, but that does not include benefits. So where the pay grade for the civil engineer and that dollar amount now is not in addition to what's already being paid. I just want to make that clear. So if it wasn't Carl, then that salary would go away and that it's still being paid. It's just a net difference. Personnel. Oh, so that's just a hypothetical. So, and that is maybe the case with these. He may not apply. Whoever wants to apply, we're going to look at all of them. But whoever is selected, we're already paying most of that salary. So this is not on top of what we're already paying. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay. I just want to have you have the accurate information.
Okay. Any other questions? Well, I hope this council is considering pay windmills if they do come in. And we as the planning commission went through the master plan. And there's some recommendations in there that are just sitting there stale, which I could see all these positions or whatever that Sean's bringing out as a way of going forward for the city. That's what one I would mention. One of the things I read in there was connecting Brook Street to the Higley Boulevard. Well, that does make sense, but the reason for that is that the younger generations, and say some of these could possibly be from the wind industry, are probably wanting to buy new homes because a lot of the homes here in Rollins are just what they call old stuff. There's a big percentage of that. But as you start off as a new family, you possibly can afford buying the new home and raising your family with a new house instead of having to depend on having to buy old stuff. That's something to consider. I do like the idea of the community development director. That would help us with how we need to really plan this now and what direction it goes in. And her would be working with this master plan. And that's why we came up with the master plan. We need to work with that master plan.
Okay. Jacqueline, do you have anything to add? Even though we can't hear you?
Mayor, can I chime back in or after Jacqueline?
Yeah, let's see what Jacqueline has to say real quick.
I do see the value in all the positions. I do think it would be better to wait for the next council, the new council.
Okay. Sean, go ahead.
I just wanted to make one other point, and also I've got to preface this that I'm having a really hard time hearing a lot of what you're saying. So if I repeat something, I apologize. But I just wanted to make a point on the economic development director grant writer. I mean, this very week we are looking to get $2.8 million. If we're just crunching the numbers for a second, let's say we have this person in that position and they are able to get a fairly significant grant once every 5 years even. Like just look at this one grant that we're hopefully going to get. This would pay for a position like that for 28 years. So I would ask you, can we afford not to have a position like that is what I would pose. I think we will miss opportunities if we don't have someone like that. So I just want to make that point. And then I definitely hear what the council's saying, that it would be of value to have the new council to have some buy-in on this. I think that's a really valid point. But if we're just looking on as of tonight, which ones would make the most sense without any concerns on budget? I think the IT one makes a lot of sense. I think the city engineer, based on those numbers, makes a lot of sense. I have a little bit of a harder time with the deputy city attorney if we're just gonna talk numbers, because we're gonna have a savings of say $26,000, but we're gonna incur an extra $60,000 to have that person. And I don't anticipate, like the year that we're having of horrible extra costs, I don't think that's normal, and I don't think that's going to be the normal moving forward. So if you're just looking at budget costs, that one I would personally struggle with more than I would on some of these other ones. So IT, civil engineer makes perfect sense. And like Jody said, the grant writer, there is risk to that, but if we get one good grant, we're going to be able to pay for that position for whoever knows how many years. So that's my thoughts on that.
Okay. Councilman Martinez.
I agree with that. I think if you have a good grant writer, that the person ought to be able to earn her own wages easily. The problem that I'm having right now is because the economy the way it is, how many of those grants are going to be out there? I don't know. And that's the big question that I have. Other than that, I support the restructuring that you're doing. I think that having our own engineer on board is a plus. I think that a lot of times when we go looking at projects, the answer that I get was, well, we have to have an engineer look at it. Yeah, we do. If we had our own engineer, he could do it. A lot of this work could be done in-house, and we could get a lot of the smaller projects completed.
Years ago, I was on the Governor Friedenthal executive board, and it had to do with the community as for what direction, say, when the state landed up dropping, like the oil and everything coming down, which it is now. back then I had recommended to them to kind of look at the communities that have use of, say, forestry, lake, things like this that people like to do, recreational things. Well, I'm not the one that put in the South Highway down out there already. I'm not the one that brought in the idea of, we got routes here in Rollins that they work with the Wyoming Business Council. They could actually build a business and go to the Wyoming Business Council to help them. Those are really important things in order for this to grow. I believe this new president that we can get, hopefully, turns out that he puts money or invests money in the United States because of the economy going sour, and having infrastructure built throughout the United States. And the chances of getting some of that would be having one of these grant writers ready to go. Like I say, there's the windmills, there's the road that goes out south, there's these routes in New Orleans that you can build businesses on. And that interstate going back before 20 years ago, they said it was going to double. It has doubled. The traffic's going back and forth, it's crazy. We're not capturing it at all. But we need to have somebody in this area planning on how we go about doing it. Along with the grant writer and stuff. Sounds possibly a gamble? No, I think it's a direction. It's something we've always been looking for recognizing.
Okay. Councilman George?
Well, I mean, I agree. I think they're all valid. You know, I have hesitation concerns as well. One of the other things I think needs to be looked at is, I know COG was looking at doing some kind of a Carbon County grant. And while I mean, there might be enough or two, maybe, before making a decision for Rollins, I think that conversation should be held as well, to talk to COG about some of their plans, because maybe this could dovetail with that, or somehow make it better for everybody. I mean, if that plan's already being discussed, I think to just step on top of it and be like, well, we're doing this. And,
right, we could get into a joint effort with COG and all municipalities.
Again, the availability of grants really scares me. I mean, when you hear all of the cuts and everything getting shut down, I question how long those will stay stable.
Right now, there's a motion on the floor to go with an IT specialist and a deputy city attorney. That can go either way, and then after that, somebody wanted to make another motion for something else they could, or just didn't go or go.
Do we, it sounds to me like Sean's more into the holding off on the attorney, just giving the numbers. Do we want to just deal with an IT at the moment? How to think about it if he's not.
Well, I know that in this last year, one of the things with the attorney, we had outside counsel help on some of the boards, and then at the last minute, the outside counsel bailed, and then we had to go out and find other outside counsel.
I'm all about this. I am 100%.
To help us get through that.
That's exactly right.
And I think it's time we get rid of outside counsel. I don't think we benefited from outside counsel.
Because all that money is now just thrown away.
Yeah. I think, when you have you have our city attorney and our direction of the city, and you have an outside counsel, they're not always seeing eye to eye on the direction we need to go with certain issues. And that's what we need to get away from. We have our city attorney, if we have a deputy attorney, we have our direction that we're going. We're with the board, we're with everything that goes on, we're involved, and that's all that happens. Yeah.
I would like to say, with Amy turning in, if I'm mistaken, that not all outside counsel can we do away with, like water.
Correct.
Is so
Right.
special. There's
Right, the water rights we have to go through, no question about that. No, I understand that. But we have some other stuff that oversees our boards and commissions and stuff like that. you know, I think we need to bring that in-house. I feel like that where we have the outside counsel, it's forced a division between those boards and the city on several issues. In my opinion.
Agreed. Well, I'm comfortable with both.
I'm not comfortable with split. I really not.
Well, I think it's hard to, in reality, I guess my opinion.
There's some subjects that the manager has brought up that I think they're pretty important to the city. The one is restructuring the different departments and how he does that is very important. Those are some things that as a new manager, if I was coming in here, I would want my team on board, put in place so that I can serve the city the best I can. Right now, he's working with stuff that have been there for a long time and they're not his tools.
I agree with Barry.
The way he sees making the city go a better place. He wants to have his tools and say, this is how I think I would run this city and then bring it to the council.
And I agree with that, Barry.
Chopping it off by piece, I don't think is a way to go.
I don't think it's voting on adding 7 positions at one time. I don't think that's the right way to do it. I think that I agree with what Sean's doing and it's his game. He's wanting to structure it his way. But for the council to sit here in one go and vote on 7 new positions at one time, I don't think that's the correct way to do it.
And maybe the answer to that is to not do anything until the next council comes on board in January. And I wouldn't have any problem with that either.
But it'd be the same situation.
No,
either.
it wouldn't, because we'd have more time to work on it. Right now, we're making a quick decision on this, that I think that the staff and the manager have worked on for some time now.
You know, the purpose of a strategic planning group or session is to take a look at the whole of the city and then start looking at what you have versus what you need, and then working towards an overall picture. And so my recommendation to the council is let's have that strategic planning meeting. Let's go through the goal settings, let's do all of that. And come forward with a solid plan to move forward. I support what Sean is looking at and what he's doing. I feel, you know, if money were no object, I'd say yes, and we'd be off and running and we'd be doing the things that we need to do. However, I think that we really need to step back, do our strategic planning, and then move forward as a group. And that's my recommendation to the council.
Yeah, whatever we do here in Rollins, it benefits the other cities in the county too, because when we get the sales tax revenue, whatever here, we share it with the other 9 communities. So the better we could do it here with that interstate going by, we're probably the only one that's got that availability here in this county that can do it. It just, it's got to be planned right. We need people.
If nobody has any more questions, I guess we'll vote on the motions on the floor and
repeat the motion.
The motion is to repeat it. Okay.
I have moved to approve the resolution authorizing the city manager to add a deputy city attorney and IT position.
So, yeah, so those would be the 2 we'll be voting on now. They'll either pass or fail. Huh?
Yes, before.
When he was discussing whether or not of the ones that gave him heart, the deputy attorney was the one who gave him heart, he was more interested in having a relation.
Yes.
Okay. So that should be an amendment to that, or changing the resolution per se.
Right.
Do you change it to the engineer and the IT, or you?
I would leave it as is. As making that motion.
I would make a motion to amend your motion that would have some wording, there's some language in there that we will continue working on the rest of this plan that the manager put forward. I don't have a problem doing what you're saying, but I don't want to just vote it and forget about it. I think it's very, very important that we do what was presented to us, provided we look at it and see if we have enough money in the budget to handle it.
Well, I think this here isn't gonna kill the whole thing. If it passes, it would be the 2 positions. And then it still leaves the other 5 positions that could be brought up either individually or after retreat to still be discussed and voted on.
Correct. I think the manager needs to know that there are some of this on here. I don't know, I'm not speaking for the council, but myself. I would like to continue working on this issue because I think it's very important to the city that we do make some changes. We haven't done quite a bit. So the changes might lead us, push us in the right direction.
That's true.
And so I think that all I'm asking is that yeah, I can support what you said. I don't have a problem with that. But I don't want to drop this issue because I think he has some legitimate reasons to doing what he's wanting to do.
I agree.
But you wouldn't put that in a motion, would you? With that,
No, because
that's irrelevant information, right?
I think that's supportive for the city manager and his current personnel reorganization and plans as he moves forward. And he can present that again to this council at the next meeting. He can present it to the new council at a meeting in January. At any point.
But yeah, you're right. But I can make an amendment. You understand that too?
Right, but
I
your amendment
understand
would
what
say
you're
to continue talking about it.
but I understand what you're saying. But the question you asked, can I bring that up? Sure I can. I want to.
Right, that's not what I asked. I asked about your language in the amendment. You
Yeah.
said, I amend
I
this.
said I could make an emotion to amend.
No, you did.
I didn't. I said I could.
Okay.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, I understand. I just want to make sure that we don't drop the work that has been done by this staff, by this manager, to change the direction that we have been going.
Right.
That's all I'm asking.
And I agree, and I don't think it will. I think Sean, if this was the pass, then that's 2 positions that he's asked for, and then I think Sean would definitely come back to this council or the next council and talk about the others. And try to get those pursued. My whole thing here, I guess no matter where we went, I wouldn't be comfortable on accepting 7 new positions. I mean, that's my biggest thing, no matter really what positions they are, I'm not comfortable on putting 7 new positions into the city with the financial hardships that may be coming.
Mayor, can I make a comment?
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, thank you. And first off, I just want to thank everyone for their great comments. And I can tell that I think we all want the same thing. We want what's best for the city. The budget certainly is a concern. For me, my personal concern right now is that I feel like if I were in person and we had more time to discuss this, I think it wouldn't feel like it was that bad of a thing. Budget wise, I think there's more understanding that can be had by maybe, take the ones that you would like tonight, but I would love to have further discussion, to have an opportunity to explain things a little bit better.
Yeah, and I think you should, Sean, no question about that, because whatever happens tonight won't kill anything. You should come back and present whatever else afterwards.
That'd be great.
I agree.
Yeah, and I think we're all in an agreement of hearing more. Absolutely.
Okay. So if there's no more discussion, we'll vote on the motion that's on the floor. Sherry, could you open on my voting?
Online voting is closed, and motion carries with 6 days, and Councilmember Smith voting nays.
Okay. So with that, yeah, so as we come into the next council meeting and Sean's prepared, then he can come forward with the rest of the items and present it a different way, either all together or individually or whatever. Okay, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Now move on down to item F, to approve the Wyoming Community Gas 2020 designated project. Pam?
Honorable Mayor and Council. Okay, so this year we. At least I have good friends. In front of you, we are asking tonight to spend $10,322.95 on lighting, interior lighting for the gazebo. And then whatever's left on that grant to actually apply toward the park. I did want to let you guys know in some of the supplement, the PDF, which is the Excel, that is the cost of just the lights. I want to let you know that I'm working with the same company that I feel like I'm the lighting queen these days. But the same lighting manufacturer that we got all the stuff for the snowflake. The cost is a wholesale cost. He's giving the city of Rollins a wholesale cost. So that's why it looks the 23, 24 is a wholesale cost of just the light. So I don't want you to think there's going to be like $8,000 left. We still have to pay for installation, and he is giving us a 42% decrease on the cost. So I just wanted you guys, when you saw that you didn't say, holy smokes, we're going to, it's not going to cost that much to do those people lights. Those are just for the actual lights. And then they are pretty easy to install. That's what the manufacturer is saying. I'm not sure if Danielle or Public Works would have time, but if we have to hire someone. So I'm thinking in the ballpark around $6,000-7,000 it's going to cost to do this project. And then the difference from there would go toward the parks.
Do we have any other ideas for that money? I mean, normally too, we have 3 or 4.
No, we usually have to like to take it home and vote it for 2 weeks and bring it back with a.
So the leftover money, I'm sorry, I should have finished this, but the leftover money will go toward all the parks for their, to work on their,
Can I pause you there for a second? Sorry, we got ahead of ourselves. We did not have a motion on the floor before we could start discussion.
I apologize.
Mine too, can I catch that?
I was.
Councilwoman Smith?
Yeah, I move to approve and dedicate the 2020 Wyoming Community Gas Project funds in the amount of $10,322.95 to install lighting at the Depot Park Pavilion and upgrade water fountains throughout the city park.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Now we can continue.
I apologize. I did, so I'm gonna step back, is in 2016, we had 2 projects. In 2017, we had 2 projects. In 2018, we had 3 projects, depending on how you got. And then last year, we had 2 projects, to answer your question. So I do have a breakdown of how we've kind of allocated that money. So the first thing was the lighting at the interior of the gazebo for their bands or people to be out there and in the evening. But then also whatever money is left over will go towards the drinking fountains. And what we're thinking is the bottle fillers, which a lot of people are going to instead of actually using a true drinking fountain. Dan Mike has spoken at the bottle fillers, start being able to retrofit our existing water fountains in the parks to bottle fillers. And so that would actually hit all of the parks. So it wouldn't be just one bottle filler.
And would that extra funds cover that? I think?
Well, we're still, at this point, we're still running numbers. But we didn't want to lock ourselves in case the lighting project was more. So we have one big project and then we have a couple other smaller projects on the list in the past.
Okay.
I do have go ahead. As a past member of the Community Gas Board, one of the, and I don't know, maybe they've changed, we get different people get on these boards. One of the things that was always talked however they get recognized. Usually when we did our benches, we put community gas on there. Whenever we do a project, their name is out there. That's the purpose of them, I think, trying to help all the communities with these different projects. I don't see this lighting.
There would be a
How
plaque.
are they gonna be recognized with putting lights out there?
So it'd probably be the same way when they did the barbecue, there's a plaque on the barbecue. There would be a plaque on the gazebo placing lighting paid for by Wyoming Community.
That's all I was asking.
Yeah,
because I
absolutely.
know that that's one of the things that they always discuss at these board meetings is some community would do a park and then there'd be a plaque with saying, sponsored by the community gas. Around town, we have a lot of them, and we did the benches around town.
So that is considered your ROI.
I think it's really important that
Or
we
your
work with them too. So we let them know that we're doing that.
Yeah, I agree, Councilman, and I think we've done a really good job on these projects and doing that so far, whether it's the benches or on the barbecue and all that stuff. But yes, that would be figured into that.
So does the council have any other ideas they'd like to throw out there where that money might be spent other than this project?
Well, I'd like to see if they had any extra money that they buy a plexiglass to cover the mural that's over there at Martinez Park, so the vandals don't get at it anymore. I think I looked it up and we're talking a couple of $100 to get it and the city installed it. If there's any extra money in there that we could use, I think that'd be a good place to put it. Aaron?
So I'll be honest, I'm a little disappointed that only one project was put forward. I would like to, I will probably make a motion to postpone this until next time, to give us a couple weeks to come some more ideas. I actually, no offense, but I don't want to see this money go downtown. It's enough going down there. Let's spread this out to the rest of the town. I'm gonna say it again. This town would really like a dog park. And there has been, for the 6 years I've lived here, a massive support for that, and this council has never supported that. I would really like to look into a dog park and or a skate park. I don't think that the lighting at the depot is in the, I don't really think that is, this is supposed to be a community support thing, and I think, I don't know, I would like to see something different. I think we could do something a little bit better or different, or maybe not, but I would definitely like to put it up. I would, I move to postpone this, the vote for the community gas until the next meeting.
We got a question, we have a motion on the floor right now. Your question.
Correct, I amended it. I
To
will
amend-
amend it.
To amend that motion.
To amend the motion to postpone it until the next meeting.
And I'll second that. Any other discussion? We'll have to vote on the amendment first. Yeah.
Online voting is closed and motion carries with 6 yeas and Councilmember Smith voting yes.
Yeah.
The dog park is on our list of goals to do,
And it has been for a lot of years.
and we just haven't been working on the project. So that's my point.
So thank you, council, I was just bringing this up. What I will do is go back to Parks and Rec, and I guess we'll take it back to, department heads is where the start of Parks and Rec brought these two projects forward. for this, so I will go back to them and see if they would like my assistance on dog park or skate park. I was just pretty much, we will move forward and have something.
Typically, in the past, this grant money's always come to the council to come up with ideas to spend on. So this year was a little different, but I know in the past, we've always come up with the direction for that money to go and what to do with it.
Arguably, this year is kind of a tough one.
Right.
This won't involve you, so
Okay.
if we're done, I'd like to ask a question, storage related.
Yeah.
I thought we, like years ago, approved the new Star. Can we ask for an update on that right now? Is that a bad timing?
Yeah.
Do you know that? Sorry.
I was prepared for that too, even though this is not my daily, I did my research.
Well, come on back up, please.
Sherry helped me. Sherry got all this right. So I went through, on a form that we have of everything we spent, I mean, everything with Wyoming Community Gas money has been spent out except for the 2018 money, which is the Christmas Star rebuild. And so, yeah, so I actually, that was, Sherry and I talked about that today. So I am not sure because again, just up here being speaker. Steve, I know that this was a project that you were working on, so.
And every time we turn around, we have to move on.
That's true. Yes, we know that. So there is the money allocated still for the Star. Again,
So it's just mostly just getting it to just line up and actually get done. Okay. I'm just curious, because I'm.
yeah, and that,
Went from a really
that,
great idea to nothing.
and Aaron, that, Councilman,
That's okay.
was, in 2018, for about not a little over $9,000 and $9,012. So that's what's on the books for that rebuild of the Star.
Okay.
Yeah, and the purpose of the Star was to figure out a way to be able to bring it down and bring it back up in the winter time. And keep it from getting, that's beautiful up there. So it is now.
And LED.
Yeah.
So I have pricing on how to put a good LED light on. See, there's a good reason. I also did want to tell you when the two people from Rocky Mountain Power did go up last week, he did say it's on its way.
Yeah, did a good job.
And it's, I mean, I was
Every
actually.
2 years it's on.
We just
Yeah,
can get a little bit more.
So just the council, to let the council know, all the money has been spent out and it's allocated to the penny except for that 1 year of money.
Sure.
Okay.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
So I would just like to add, before we adjourn the meeting, that, Aaron's exactly right. We've talked about a dog park for many years. And there seems to be a need for it in Rollins. So I guess I would task staff to take a look at it again. I really, with the properties that we have, maybe a quarter of the Outlaw Bowl, or there's many places that I don't see why we couldn't, fence it off and actually do something probably pretty inexpensive. I don't think it requires much more than being fenced off and have some trash receptacles and a bag receptacle and some water. But I guess I would ask staff to look into that a little bit to see if there's something we couldn't do to make something work. Yes, please come up.
On your way, I'm just gonna, no, keep coming. I'm just gonna elaborate a little bit with what the mayor said. Is I would say that even it could be a step, right? Like, it doesn't have to be the golden throne in phase 2. It can start stepwise. You can start with like one run and move to another run.
Okay. And I'm gonna go back and Amy or staff or Danielle or whoever, in the fishing pond project, there's also an apartment complex. In that, there is a dog park that is scheduled. Dave Rader was gonna give up some of his land, the apartment complex, and we were going in that whole big plan. I think it had to be more to do with the apartments than the fishing pond. But there was a dog park, a nice dog park that was actually going to be put in by the developer. And so that was going to meet one of those council goals. So there is something, and I don't know if maybe we can go back to Dave Rader, because I know he wanted to be involved, and then the apartment. I just did want to bring that up that, you guys were going in that direction a year ago, you know, and I wasn't.
Well, you know, and kind of the way Rollins lays out, I guess, I doubt that the people in El Rancho would load up their dog and take clear over there. So it might make sense to have two, one on each side of town. So if that one may still go, I haven't heard anything about that project. Yeah, yay or nay, but I don't think we should just hang our hat on that. Let's maybe look at another area that we could do something.
Well, and again, obviously that's up in the air, but that was also supposed to be, we were told, a private dog park. So public access would maybe not be as convenient or readily accepted as a true public dog park.
And you could be right, Councilman, I had read something in it that there was going to be, but agreed, Mayor, that is a good point. That's a big stretch. I mean, clear.
Check and see where that project is.
Anyway, I just wanted to bring that up.
All right, thank you, Pam. And I guess Linda just brought up another good point. If staff, maybe Amy, if we could look into see where that project is currently at, if it's still a go, waiting for things to calm down, or has it went away?
I believe the city manager has spoken with the city engineer on that, but we will request an update on that current project for you.
All right, thank you. Is there anything you want to add, Sean, if you're still there? Okay, all right. If there's nothing else to come before the council, we will adjourn the meeting. The next meeting will be December 15th. Thank you.
Bye, Jackie.
Yeah.